At first glance, this coin looks ordinary. Small. Quiet. Almost invisible in daily life. A simple 2016 Canadian 5-cent beaver coin, something people toss into pockets, jars, or forget inside old wallets. But history has a strange habit of hiding power inside ordinary things. And this coin is one of them. Because behind this tiny piece of metal lives a story that shaped a nation, built empires, and quietly moved millions of dollars long before modern money even existed. On the reverse side of this coin, you see a beaver sitting calmly on a log. To many people, it looks like just an animal. But in Canada, the beaver is not decoration. It is a symbol of survival, patience, and control over land and water. Long before gold rushes, oil fields, or stock markets, the beaver was Canada's real treasure. Its fur fueled the massive fur trade, an industry so powerful that it decided where cities would rise and where borders would be drawn. Entire economies were built on this animal, and this small coin quietly carries that memory forward. This design has been part of Canadian nickels since 1937, and by 2016, it had already become one of the most recognizable coin designs in the world. Yet every year, subtle changes happen. Metal flow. Pressure. Dye wear. Tiny variations invisible to the naked eye. Collectors know this well. What looks dirty or worn to most people can sometimes tell a deeper story. Heavy circulation marks mean this coin traveled hand to hand, pocket to pocket, across cities, across provinces. Each scratch is proof of movement through the real economy. The 2016 issue was struck without a traditional mint mark, produced by the Royal Canadian Mint, using modern techniques but still vulnerable to small imperfections. And those imperfections are what serious collectors watch closely. Surface texture. Color shifts. A rare reddish to dark brown toning, unusual for a nickel-based coin, can spark curiosity. Sometimes it comes from environmental exposure. Sometimes from storage. And sometimes from something far more interesting that only experts recognize. People often believe value comes only from age. That is not true. Value comes from story, scarcity, and attention. Millions of these coins were made, yes. But millions of people also overlook them. And history shows again and again that overlooked objects are often the ones that shock the market later. Coins once ignored have suddenly appeared at auctions, analyzed, certified, and transformed from pocket change into headlines. This coin also represents something deeper. It reminds us how governments quietly operate through small denominations. While paper money inflates and digital numbers rise and fall, coins like this stay grounded. They move slowly. They survive crashes, reforms, and political changes. And sometimes, decades later, they return with new meaning and unexpected demand. A dirty, heavily circulated condition does not automatically mean worthless. In some cases, it means authentic, untouched, uncleaned, real. Collectors often prefer originality over shine. Because cleaning removes history, and history is what creates desire. The marks you see are not damage. They are proof of life. Most people will spend this coin without a second thought. They always have. That is exactly why surprises happen. Because when nobody is watching, value grows quietly. And when attention finally arrives, it arrives fast. Suddenly everyone is checking jars, drawers, and old collections. Asking the same question. Did I already have it? This coin will not shout its worth. It never has. It waits. Like the beaver itself. Patient. Silent. Working beneath the surface while the world moves above it. And that is what makes this coin dangerous to underestimate. Because history favors the patient. And collectors know. The smallest coins often carry the biggest surprises. At first, this coin feels invisible. Small. Quiet. Cold in the hand. A 2009 Canadian 5-cent beaver coin passed through stores, buses, pockets, and cash drawers without a second look. Most people never stop. They never question it. They never imagine that something so common could carry a story powerful enough to shake collectors and ignite serious money conversations. Turn the coin over. There it is. The beaver. Not just an animal. A national symbol. A creature that built Canada before skyscrapers, before banks, before modern money even existed. The beaver represents patience, construction, control of land and water, and silent power. Long before Canada became a country, the fur trade made this animal priceless. Empires were financed by beaver pelts. Borders were drawn because of them. And this small coin quietly carries that forgotten weight. The 2009 beaver nickel belongs to a long design tradition that began in 1937. Decades passed. Generations changed. Yet the beaver remained. In 2009, the coin was struck without a visible mint mark, a normal practice for modern Canadian coinage. But normal does not mean meaningless. Because value does not always announce itself at birth. Sometimes it waits. Sometimes it hides inside circulation, unnoticed, while the world looks elsewhere. Many of these coins now appear worn, dirty, scratched, faded. Most people assume that means worthless. Collectors know better. Heavy circulation means the coin lived a real life. It moved through real hands. It survived real economies. And originality matters more than shine. Once a coin is cleaned, its story is erased. But when it stays untouched, even in rough condition, it keeps its truth. Over time, certain examples begin to stand apart. Unusual toning. Unexpected color shifts. Metal flow lines that tell a deeper minting story. Sometimes the difference is microscopic. Sometimes it's emotional. Collectors don't just buy metal. They buy mystery. They buy scarcity that others fail to see. And markets have proven again and again that overlooked coins can explode in demand when attention finally turns toward them. The idea that only old coins matter is wrong. Modern coins have shocked the world before. When production numbers collide with collectors' psychology, prices move fast. What was once spare change suddenly becomes a talking point. A listing. A headline. A surprise discovery pulled from a drawer that sat untouched for years. The 2009 beaver nickel represents something deeper than face value. It reflects how nations preserve identity in small metal circles. While paper money inflates and digital numbers flicker on screens, coins stay grounded. They survive crashes. They survive reforms. They outlast trends. And when the right moment comes, they reappear with new meaning. People love overnight stories. The idea that a simple coin could change a life. Most won't. But history shows that a few do. And the ones that do are never the obvious ones. They are the coins people ignored. The ones spent too quickly. The ones never checked twice. That's why experienced collectors always say the same thing. Never rush. Never assume. Never spend without understanding. Because value doesn't shout. It whispers. And by the time everyone hears it, it's already too late. This coin does not promise riches. It promises possibility. And possibility is where every fortune begins. In silence. In patience. In something small that most people never bother to look at. And that is why the 2009 Canadian 5 cents beaver coin still matters. Not because of what it is today, but because of what it could become. When the world finally starts paying attention, this coin does not look dangerous. It does not shine. It does not demand attention. A 2005 Canadian 5 cents beaver coin feels ordinary the moment it touches your palm. Light. Quiet. Easy to ignore. And that is exactly how powerful things hide. Turn it over. The beaver sits there in silence. Strong jaw. Flat tail. Balanced on wood shaped by its own effort. This is not decoration. This is history pressed into metal. The beaver is not just an animal for Canada. It is the reason early money flowed into this land. Before gold rushes. Before banks. Before cities had names. The fur trade built empires, and the beaver was the engine. The 2005 issue carries that same symbol forward. No visible mint mark. No announcement. No ceremony. Just mass circulation. And mass circulation is where myths are born. Because when millions of coins are released, people stop paying attention. They spend. They forget. They lose track. Years pass. And suddenly, patterns begin to change. Some of these coins return worn down. Darkened. Scratched. Stained by time and hands and movement. Most people see damage. Collectors see survival. A coin that lived a full life carries evidence of reality. And untouched reality matters more than artificial beauty. Cleaning removes story. Dirt preserves it. That contradiction confuses beginners. But seasoned collectors understand it deeply. The beaver nickel design has existed since 1937. That alone tells you something important. Designs do not last that long unless they carry meaning. Governments change designs when identity changes. The beaver never left. Through wars. Through inflation. Through economic resets. It stayed. Because it represents patience, labor, construction, and quiet dominance. The year 2005 sits in an interesting space. Modern enough to be ignored. Old enough to be forgotten. That middle zone is where surprise value often forms. Coins from this era are not yet romanticized. They are not framed. They are not hunted aggressively. And that is exactly why attention can shift suddenly. Stories about overnight fortunes always start small. A coin found in a jar. A pocket discovery. A piece that was never meant to be saved. Most of these stories are exaggerated. Some are misunderstood. But history proves one thing again and again. Markets move when belief changes. Not when metal changes. Collectors do not chase face value. They chase narrative. Scarcity of interest. Psychological demand. A moment when everyone suddenly realizes they looked away for too long. That moment does not come with warning. It arrives quietly. And by the time prices are discussed loudly, the early window is already closed. The 2005 beaver nickel reminds people of something uncomfortable. Value is not always loud. It does not always sparkle. Sometimes it sits at the bottom of a drawer, dark and unimpressive, waiting for someone patient enough to ask the right question. Not how much is this worth today? But why does this exist, and who still cares? Coins are time machines. They survive when paper fades. They outlast digital promises. They pass through generations without asking permission. And once in a while, one of them steps out of anonymity and forces the world to look again. This coin does not guarantee wealth. No honest story ever does. But it represents potential. And potential is the only thing that has ever created fortune. Not certainty. Not hype. Just the willingness to pause before spending something that looks ordinary. That is why people who understand coins never rush. They observe. They wait. They listen to silence. Because silence is where the real signals live. The 2005 Canadian 5-cent beaver coin is still quiet. Still common. Still underestimated. And history has shown that those are the exact conditions that come before a shift. Sometimes destiny doesn't knock. It sits in your pocket. And waits for you to notice.